Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another edition of Budget Magic. So this week, we're heading to Hour of Devastation Standard to build around one of my all-time favorite cards to play. Oh, I'm so happy, it's back, it's been a while. It's Panharmonicon time. So Panharmonicon, kind of the story of the card in Standard, is actually pretty interesting. We were playing it on Against the Odds as soon as it was printed, because it was super sweet, and then it eventually sort of developed into a real deck, but then Reflector Mage got banned, and it kind of disappeared. Amonkhet had like 0 enter the battlefield creatures, but then Hour of Devastation came along, and Hour of Devastation has a ton of new toys for Panharmonicon, so I think this is going to revitalize the archetype. The deck is super fun, it's super sweet. If you like Panharmonicon, this is a really sweet build of it. It's pretty competitive, and only 87 bucks, so you can't go wrong. 87 bucks in the paper world, 70 ticks on Magic Online, and I think it's actually a pretty solid deck and can keep up with a lot of the best decks in the format. So a quick reminder before we break down GG Panharmonicon for Standard, we're doing a worldwide Hour of Devastation booster box giveaway, so make sure to follow the link in the description to get signed up for that if you're interested in a chance to win your very own box of Hour of Devastation. Anyway, let's talk GG Panharmonicon. So there's 2 namesake cards in GG Panharmonicon. The GG actually refers to a card. It's not just a snarky good game reference, although it can work that way as well. Anyway, Panharmonicon, we're not going to talk about it too in-depth, because I assume you probably know what it does by now, because we've played it a couple times in the past. Basically, doubles up our enter the battlefield trigger. So if we play a Thraben Inspector, we get 2 clues. If we play a Gonti, we get 2 exile triggers. You name it, we get 2 of them. So that's the plan of Panharmonicon, and our deck is overflowing with really powerful enter the battlefield creatures that generate a ton of value. So Panharmonicon, namesake card number 1. Number 2 is God-Pharaoh's Gift. That's the GG of GG Panharmonicon. And God-Pharaoh's Gift is kind of our finisher. So we get our Panharmonicon down, we're generating value, we're drawing cards, we're doing all the sweet Panharmonicon stuff. Eventually, in the late game, we get down a God-Pharaoh's Gift, and things go crazy, because we get a free token copy, that's a 4/4, of a creature in our graveyard every one of our turns, just by exiling it. It even has haste, so we can start beating down with it immediately. But the key thing here is the token is a copy. So no matter what we copy, we actually get the enter the battlefield trigger, which means we're getting tons of Panharmonicon value. We don't even have to cast our cards anymore. We just let God-Pharaoh's Gift do the work, get back our stuff. They're even bigger a lot of times. A lot of our creatures are relatively small, so we're getting back bigger versions of our cards, doubling up the triggers with Panharmonicon, and just close out the game really quickly. So there's a couple more really key additions to Panharmonicon from Hour of Devastation, and those are Eternalize cards. So Champion of Wits and Sunscourge Champion are super key and important to this deck. Champion of the Wits gives us a okay front half. We draw 2, discard 2, but remember, we're actively interested in stocking our graveyard in this build of Panharmonicon because of our God-Pharaoh Gift. So when we discard stuff, we can always get it back bigger in the late game, and then once we get back a Champion of Wits from the graveyard with Eternalize, we're drawing 4 and discarding 2, so it's generating card advantage. If we have a Panharmonicon out, Eternalizing a Champion of the Wits pretty much just closes out the game. We end up 4 cards with a 4/4 body, and the other key thing about this is it's all uncounterable. So yes, our opponent, sure, you counter it on the way down, whatever, you kill it after it hits the battlefield, whatever. When we Eternalize our Champion of the Wits, we're getting it back in an uncounterable way, which is really important in some matchups. The other sweet trick is Sunscourge Champion. So some of the most powerful things we can do as far as against aggro decks, kind of putting the game out of reach, is to discard our Sunscourge Champions to our Champion of Wits or to other Sunscourge Champions, and then we get them back from the graveyard as 4/4s that gain us 4 life for 4 mana, which is a pretty good deal on its own, and it becomes an insane deal with Panharmonicon. Just eternalizing a single Sunscourge Champion gains us 8 life if we have a Panharmonicon out. Sometimes we gain 12 life or 16 life, and that is a huge chunk of life. So one of the keys of building a successful Panharmonicon deck is being able to catch up, because if you're going to take off turn 4 to cast Panharmonicon, which if you're playing a Panharmonicon deck, that's what you're planning on doing, you got to have ways to recoup the life and the tempo that you lost taking off that turn, and Sunscorched Champion is a great way of doing it. We also have some of the traditional big hitters from Panharmonicon. Glen, Ness, Crane, a little risky. It's not actually great in our deck. It's a fine blocker, which I like. It's good against aggressive decks, giving us a blocker on turn 2. The 2-drop slot is one of the weaker slots in our deck. The problem is it doesn't actually hit that much. We only have 6 total artifacts in our deck between the 4 Panharmonicons, 2 God-Pharaohs Gifts. So when we cast a Glen, Ness, Crane, we're hoping we get lucky, we beat the odds, we get an artifact, but we know a lot of the times we're going to whiff on it and just get the blocker, although as the game goes along, our odds improve. And Glen, Ness, Crane does work well with God-Pharaoh's Gift. After we get a Panharmonicon down and we're getting 2 Glen, Ness, Crane triggers or 3 Glen, Ness, Crane triggers, it is a pretty good way to find our God-Pharaoh's Gift. And then when it comes back with our God-Pharaoh's Gift, it's a 4/4 flyer, which is pretty good. Cloudblazer, probably the best Panharmonicon creature. It's just so insane. It curves after Panharmonicon, so turn 4 Panharmonicon, turn 5 we were talking about recouping the life and tempo that we lose when we take a turn off for Panharmonicon. Cloudblazer is the best way to do that. When we gain 4, draw 4, and have a 2/2 blocker left behind, that really catches us back up from skipping our turn. And then Thraben Inspector, normally we just cast this on turn 1 if we have the opportunity. Gives us a jump blocker, we can crack a clue, we don't have that many 2-drops, so we can use our second turn to do that and set up for a third turn. And after Panharmonicon, it's still pretty sweet. Getting double clue tokens, triple clue tokens, pretty good, comes back bigger with God-Pharaoh's Gift. The other super huge addition, maybe the most important addition actually, which is kind of crazy because Champion of Wits and Sunscorched Champion are great in this deck, are the desert lands. With the rotation of Pain lands, we lost the ability to easily play Eldrazi Displacer in Panharmonicon, and Eldrazi Displacer is so good in Panharmonicon. It lets us blink our Cloudblazer to draw more cards, gain more life, our Sunscorched Champion to gain more life. It lets us blink our Thraben Inspector for more clues. All of our stuff is so good to be blunk that Eldrazi Displacer is insane, but it was very hard to activate. The mana base really suffered without the Pain lands, but now we're a straight blue-white deck, so we can just play 4 Ipnu Rivulets, 4 Sheffet Dunes, and we have these really easy-to-play dual lands basically for our deck. They add the colors we need to cast all of our spells, and they also let us activate Eldrazi Displacer and go to town with the blink value. And since we're playing Eldrazi Displacer, this isn't the main part of our deck, but we also have the infinite combo with Thought-Knot Seer and Drowner of Hope. So eventually, with our Champion of Wits, with our Cloudblazers, with our Thraben's Inspector, combined with Panharmonicon, it's not uncommon at all for us to be able to draw through literally our entire deck. Every single card, get through our entire library. That's how many cards we draw in this deck. Eventually, we'll draw into our Thought-Knot Seer, we'll draw into our Drowner of Hope, and this gives us a way to just kill our opponent on the spot without attacking. So, level 1, we got a Panharmonicon out. By that point in the game, we should have one. We can just blink Drowner of Hope and make infinite tokens. So if we have a Panharmonicon, every time Drowner of Hope enters the battlefield, we get 4 Eldrazi Scion tokens. We can use 3 of them to activate Eldrazi Displacer to blink Drowner of Hope to get 4 tokens, use 3 to make 4, 3 to make 4. Every time we go through that loop, we're gaining 1. And then if we throw Thought-Knot Seer into the mix, we can use our extra tokens to also blink Thought-Knot Seer an infinite number of times, which mills our opponent out. The rest of the main deck, just a couple removal spells, cast out kind of a catch-all, Declaration in Stone, good against zombies, a little bit of aggro removal. Ideally, we don't worry too much about early game creatures because we can gum up the board, gain a bunch of life. Hopefully that's enough in those matchups. And then the rest of the mana, some blue-white duels, some basic lands, pretty straightforward apart from the deserts we already talked about. In the sideboard, Angel of Sanctions gives us some more removal. If our opponent doesn't have a way to kill it, it's super good. It does double trigger with our Panharmonicon, so we can exile 2 permanents, and the Embalm ability is pretty nice to be able to get it back if we discard it to a Champion of Wits or something. Stasis Snare, just kills something, gets rid of a creature. Dusk to Dawn is our Wrath. I'm not 100% sure on this if it's better than a hard Wrath like Fumigate. I think it's very borderline. The idea is it kills all of our opponent's stuff, hopefully. It kills not very much of our stuff. It does hit our Eldrazi if we have them out, which is a little unfortunate. But then we can use it to get back our Thraben Inspectors, our Cloud Blazers, all that stuff from the graveyard. Fragmentize to deal with artifacts and enchantments. Then we have Negates for more controlling matchups. Crook of Condemnation. I think I'm just going to play that in all my sideboards from here on out. And that is GG Panharmonicon. So I think this deck is super sweet. It is very grindy. It takes a while to win, so be aware of that aspect of it. But we have a lot of good tools. Against control decks and mid-range decks, we can just outdraw them. We just draw more cards than they do. Eventually, we overwhelm them with card advantage. Against aggro decks, we got the 4 Sunscorched Champions, which are insane. We got some good early game blockers and Thraben Inspector and Ness Crane. And once we stabilize and get to the point where we're drawing 4 and gaining 4 with Panharmonicon or gaining 8 with Sunscorched Champion, we just close out the game super quickly, and it's hard for those decks to keep up. So I'm super excited. We get a lot of cool Hour of Devastation cards, combined with one of my all-time favorite cards to play in Budget Magic and against odds and anywhere. Panharmonicon is just so much fun to play, so I think it's pretty competitive. It's definitely super sweet and just super fun to play if you like drawing tons of cards and doing crazy things. So anyway, that's GG Panharmonicon for Standard, and that's our Budget Magic deck for this week. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you're subscribed, make sure to hit that bell icon to get notifications for all the latest videos. It's a great way to support the channel for free, and you can find the next video right here.